We lost. We lost. We got our asses handed to us on national television in front of hundreds of millions of people. But us Chiefs fans, we're not going to hold our heads. We're not going to blame the refs. We're not going to say it's scripted or it's rigged or that one of their players' girlfriends was the reason for all this success.
I'm a loser.
We're going to hang our heads high and we're going to just move forward. But how do we do that? What does it look like to move forward after this devastating loss? And now, while we don't know the future and what's to come, I can look into my crystal ball and I can give you an indication of what we can expect as Chiefs fans moving forward. So less than 24 hours after this numbing and painful loss, I sit here and I think not just about the run that we've been on, the recent success that we've had, but about what's to come in the coming seasons, and specifically next season. We're young, yet we're experienced. We're keeping a part of our core together, yet a lot of key pieces are leaving. Will we be hungry enough? Will we have something to chase without a three-peat staring us in the face? Will we lose all the momentum that we've built over the last 7 seasons? Now, these are some of the questions that us Chiefs fans naturally have, and we want to know what to expect going forward. So let's take a look at maybe some of the things that can give us some indication of what we can expect. Now, no matter what changes come after next season, we have 15. We know that. And I think that as long as we have Pat Mahomes, the window of opportunity is always going to be open. Now, coming off probably his worst game of his career, he's still just 29 years old. He's still, by most standards, the standard in the NFL. He's the same guy that took us to 7 straight AFC championships, 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, yada, yada, yada. You know all that information. I think that what most people don't realize, however, is that he did all of this with a huge target on his back since like his 2nd season into the league after he put Kansas City on the map. You know, he does have Rice, Worthy, and Pacheco all to kind of grow with. And so I think that as long as we have Pat Mahomes there and he has Andy Reid, I think that he's always going to figure out a way to keep the Chiefs relevant and competing for championships. And speaking of Andy Reid, that brings me to my next point. It was said last week that Andy Reid would be returning to the sidelines in 2025. And if that is in fact the case, it's going to keep the Reid and Mahomes tandem together, which is going to allow the Chiefs to compete for future championships. Now, make no mistake about it, Mahomes is not Mahomes without Reid, but Reid is not Reid without Mahomes. And so I think that if they can stay together, they can continue to find a way to stay relevant and to be in these big games competing with a chance to go to the Super Bowl or for a Super Bowl going forward. Now, we don't know how long Reid will actually stay around. We do know last season he signed an extension that keeps him in Kansas City till 2029. So there's a good chance that we have 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons left with the Reid and Mahomes tandem. And I think that over the next 4 years, they find a way to stay relevant and to stay competitive so that they can keep this window of opportunity open. And one reason why I think that this window of opportunity stays open is our young defense. Chris Jones is aging, but he's not really showing signs of slowing down. I think the question is, do we have 2 more good seasons with CJ? Do we have 3, maybe 5? Nose tackles' bodies take a beating week in and week out during the NFL season, and his large frame has held up really well up to this point, but how long can we expect that to continue? Jones also signed an extension last year, which is going to keep him in Kansas City for a couple more years. We just don't know the level at which he'll be playing when we get towards the end of that contract. Now, the rest of the defense is still fairly young, actually the 6th youngest defense in the NFL to be exact, and so there's reason to believe that they can continue to build on that momentum to take a step forward and continue to improve as a unit. And I think that McDuffie, Karlaftis, Leo Chanel, those kind of guys coming back, I think that the defense can remain formidable and continue to play at a high level, keeping the Chiefs relevant for years to come. Now, as we know, if your team experiences success, especially sustained success, your coaching staff becomes a feeding frenzy for other teams. When other teams are looking to fill their coaching positions, poaching them from their adversaries seems to be the preferred method of choice. We already know Spags has been kicking the tires with the head coaching jobs throughout the NFL. Same thing with special teams coach Dave Tobe, among others. A big reason for this dynastic run has been the continuity that the coaches have built over the years, which seems to maybe be coming to an end. Coaching turnover and injuries are what I believe are the biggest threats to stopping this Chiefs train that's been steaming along for almost a decade now. The Chiefs are expected to come into the 2025 season with about $11 million in cap space, and they have a long list of free agents that they have to make decisions on, and some of those include D-Hop, Justin Reed, Charles Omenihu, Hollywood Brown, DJ Humphries, Derek Nottie, Nick Bolton, Mike Pennell, Juju Smith, Kareem Hunt, Najee Johnson, and Matt Ariza, just to name a few. Now, not only does there have to be enough money to re-sign these players, but there also has to be enough money to sign players via free agency and also money to sign your draft picks. The Chiefs are going to have to make some tough decisions going forward, which is going to be the ultimate deciding factor of whether or not they keep this thing going. One thing that the Chiefs have consistently excelled at is managing the cap space and keeping necessary talent around. Veach is a master at manipulating the cap numbers and keeping necessary talent around that allows us to continue to compete for championships, and he's proven to do that over the last 5 or 6 seasons. Reworking contracts has been a go-to for Veach and is something that we can probably expect to see this offseason to open up some cap room to re-sign some of our free agents, or to be able to go out and get new free agents to bring in to replace the ones that will be leaving our team. But we could see this team without Justin Reed or without Nick Bolton. What does this defense look like when that happens? Now, we're going to enter this offseason with Rice, Worthy, and Justin Watson as the only wide receivers under contract, and we all know Rice is going to be serving a lengthy suspension come next season. So who do we add to the wide receiver room, and how do we add somebody? As I mentioned, we don't have a lot of cap space to address this need, and we're picking 31st in the draft, which is a risky pick being so late in the first round. If we miss on that pick, it could set us back for the next few years. If we hit on that pick, it could keep us in the thick of it for years to come. Now, the big question after the game is, will Kelce return next year? You know, it was said, just like with Andy Reid, that it's expected he will return for the 2025 season. Now, if that does in fact happen, what kind of Travis Kelce can we expect? Kelce will turn 36 next season, and with all the extra playoff games that he's played over the last 9 seasons, his body's starting to show signs of wear and tear. Now, while we've seen Trav be extremely effective this season, it was far and fewer between. He really was a no-show in both the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Now, for someone that's never really relied on speed to get open, it was almost believed that he would never start showing signs of age, but he has, and he probably will continue to do so. If Kelce was to retire, it would affect the Chiefs in a lot of different ways. Not only would he not be out there running routes and getting open and picking up key third downs for this offense, but also he's not going to be out there to draw double teams, even if he does play, which is going to make it harder for the other guys to get open. Also, something else that I think is truly undervalued with Travis Kelce and how it may impact us the most is his leadership and his ability to motivate. A lot of times when we were down or we needed a spark, it was Trav that they went to in order to get that spark. And if he were to not be there, they're going to have to get that spark within themselves or get it from another leader. And who's willing to step up on this team to become that spark outside of Mahomes? Now, the AFC is a gauntlet, and honestly, I was surprised to see the Chiefs navigate it as well as they did this season. With the likes of Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and CJ Stroud, the AFC is shaping up to be a challenge for the Chiefs for years to come. And that's not to mention the resurgence of the Broncos and the Chargers, which were nipping at their heels just last season. Now, it's fair to say that one of the AFC's top quarterbacks today will never win a Super Bowl. But it's also fair to say that most likely one or more of them will, and maybe even multiple Super Bowls. And having to go through those caliber of quarterbacks and teams year in and year out poses a threat that could prevent the Chiefs from continuing to reach and compete for Super Bowls. Now, the Chiefs have only lost to one of those AFC quarterbacks once when it mattered the most. So there is a path where the Chiefs can continue their dominance, but the law of averages says otherwise. Now, I say all that to say this. The window for the Chiefs is not closed. They still have their core players together, and depending on who they add, coaching staff included, will determine if the Chiefs will continue to be a problem for the league going forward. Now, it's believed that as long as Mahomes is there, they will always have a shot to be competitive, and it's widely believed that as long as Mahomes and Reed there, they're always going to be favorites to get to and or win the Super Bowl. This is not the end of the world, Chiefs fans. We are going to be right back in the thick of things. We still have key pieces and players that still have something to prove. And I think that as long as we have those key players, we're going to be here for the long haul, and we're going to be right in the thick of it for years to come. It was a bad game. Teams have bad games. It was very unfortunate that it happened during the Super Bowl. But it is what it is, and all we can do is move forward, and it looks like we have a good foundation to move forward on.